As a teenager, Spencer already has a strong start in the derby business.
You prefer Spence or Spencer?
Spencer.
How old are you?
I'm 15, just from last October.
What grade are you in?
I'm in 9th grade right now.
What's your favorite class?
I like the machining and welding classes a lot.
You actually built a lot of parts.
Yep.
And steering columns.
Working on stuff for derby cars and do that in class, so.
When was your first time driving?
2 summers ago, when I was 13 at the time. I guess somebody else just had the car they brought and they didn't really want to drive it, so he thought he'd try to get me in it, and I volunteered right away, and he just said, sure, you can drive it.
How much do you drive in any given summer?
Last summer, I believe I drove 6.
What locations do you drive at the most?
Our favorites are probably local, Waseca, Owatonna. We like the Jordan, Scott County track. That's a lot of fun. It's a nice big track to drive on.
What's your favorite derby class?
I've driven in mid-size, that's what my first car was, and I've driven in minivans. I'd say 80s and newer is probably my favorite.
You gonna try any new classes this year?
Probably not, no. The only thing I really have left to do is just trucks, but I don't plan on doing that anytime soon, so yeah, Imperials maybe someday.
You prefer classes with a single heat or multiple heats in the feature?
Definitely a single heat, because you don't have to bring everything along and worry about saving a car. You might as well just wreck it while you're out there and have fun with it.
What do you do to stay safe in your car?
The biggest things are mostly the roll cage and to wear it for clothes and stuff, helmets and safety glasses, and
I see you've got a mohawk on your helmet. What's the significance of that?
just something different, definitely. Not many people have them. I've had my mohawk here for a couple summers now, and I don't know, it's just something different.
Who inspires you the most?
I actually look up to one of my better friends. His name is Colton Newhoffen. He's from Blue Earth. He's a very, very good driver and car builder. I like to actually call him my brother, but me and him are pretty close.
What do you do to prepare mentally before the event?
I don't know, I guess a good night's sleep is probably the best. Not gonna lie.
How long does it take you to build a car?
Well, most of the time it's 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say, but I've built them in a week before.
Do you keep any tools in your driver's quarters?
Sometimes accidentally. A lot of the times there's a vice grip in there.
What color scheme do you use to paint your car?
We've done a lot of different things with ours just this last couple of years. A lot of the time they're black. Dad wants everything to be purple. Last year we did a black and green. Not many people have that scheme, and it was pretty neat. Lime green and flat black it was.
How many wins do you have?
I have 1 win in the minivan and a couple of 3rds and 4ths.
What pointers would you give the new drivers out there just getting started?
I don't know, just have fun with it your first time. Whether you do it good or not, it's still fun either way. You're going to enjoy it.
Mrs. Velzke herself has had a chance to derby.
How many times have you driven?
I've only driven once, and it was last year. Spencer built the car. Actually, after I drove, got some complaints from Spencer saying I didn't drive hard enough. I did win. I won. I actually drove with Natalie in a powder puff heat, and when you're out there it seems like you're hitting really, really hard, and when you watch the video it's really not. That was in Faribault at Rice County Fair. The first time I saw my husband drive, I was actually dating a tow truck driver from Faribault, and when I was there I was very ignorant when it came to demolition derbies, so I thought it was funny to see the bad crashes, and I was sitting on the back of the tow truck and I was looking and I said, look at that guy, he fell, he didn't get up, he just went and didn't get back up again. And it was Clark. I didn't know him then. But I met him years later and he told me he was the actual person that happened to.
What do you think of him driving derby?
I remember he brought me out to his parents' home and he had a Chrysler Imperial there, a box car. And he said, do you want to see my Impy? Do you want to see my Impy? And so he drove me right back there and I said, oh, cool.
Does it make you nervous when your kids get on the track?
It really doesn't, and I don't know, people have asked me that before too. No, it doesn't make me nervous. I always know there's emergency personnel there, and I know we've always encouraged them to be a little more outgoing than maybe most parents do, so for some reason I don't get nervous.
Natalie is no beginner either.
How old are you?
I'll be 19 in a week.
When did you start derbying?
I was 15 and Lee Center was my first year of Chevy wagon.
How much do you drive in a given summer?
The first summer I only drove once, and I drove the Chevy wagon and I got second my first time. The next summer I think it was 3 times. Drove with my dad and Spencer couldn't come down in the pits because he wasn't old enough, so it was just me and my dad trying to fixed our cars between heats, and so that was a lot of work. Probably like 5, 7 a summer.
What locations do you drive at the most?
I don't think we've ever missed Wasika's. Faribault, like to drive in the Powder Puff. We got Mom in there last year. Owatonna was my first year this year. I like Jordan probably the most.
What's your favorite derby class?
80s and newer, I think, are, if you build them right, they're just as tough as any old iron anyway, so
Do you prefer powder puff, stock, or pro mod classes?
Powder Puff.
How much different is powder puff over regular classes?
Most of the time the girls, like most of the girls don't really know what they're doing, they just get thrown in there, so usually the Powder Puff, because I have a little bit more experience and I've been around it my whole life, so it's easier to win. I do like to challenge myself sometimes and drive with the guys, or drive with Spencer, or drove with my dad a couple times.
How do your driving tactics change when driving a pro mod class instead of a powder puff class?
You definitely have to watch around you a lot more, to watch people hitting you a lot more in a pro class. In Powder Puff, people they just get thrown in there usually, so they don't really know what they're doing.
How many guys hit on you over the course of the summer?
All of them.
What do guys say when you tell them you drive derby?
Most people can't believe it, and they ask if I just drive or if I build my own cars. Usually they just ask if I build my own cars too, and I've been around it my whole life. I know what I'm doing.
What steps do you take to keep safe inside your car?
Obviously, my helmet, it's required. I tried to drive with a seatbelt that was too loose one time, and in a car that was way too tough, and ended up everywhere because it was just too loose and I couldn't tighten it.
What's your biggest injury?
The first time I drove, I forgot to put my headrest up on my seat. My head went backwards over my seat. And one time I got out of my car and grabbed my header, pulling myself out.
What's the most critical step that you take in preparing your car?
Make sure it runs good. If it doesn't run good, it's not going to get you anywhere. The body doesn't matter anything if it doesn't run good.
What color scheme do you use to paint your car?
Whatever Spencer's doing. One year for my birthday, I had to have a black gloss paint for my birthday, so that I had a black gloss car. I wouldn't just use the black that we had.
Out of all the ways your competition might cheat, what bothers you the most?
Inspectors that let people through or miss stuff, that bothers me the most, is because it's not fair. If they got through with it, I should have got through with it too. Or if I had to cut something that they didn't have to, that's a big thing. People that are favored by the refs, like, don't get timed out in time or hit driver's doors and don't get called for it.
How many wins do you have?
Probably at least half of derbies I've been in are wins. All but 2 are in the top 3. I was points champion for IMP for 2 years in a row for their Powder Puff.
You had some steering problems last year in Jordan. What will you do to combat those problems?
My steering problems were pretty much because my brother told me I could cut something off that I couldn't, so I just did because it was binding, and that actually was what held my steering shaft into my column. The whole thing came out right at the joint, pulled the whole thing off. They had to stop the derby, and they gave my dad I handed my dad, he was an official, I handed my dad my steering wheel. I'm like, what do I do now? Should I just break my flag? Like, it was the first hit that it broke. But he's like, no, just keep going. So I kept going with no steering wheel, and I ended up winning it.
Are you going to school?
I'm going to school at Riverland in Owatonna, just getting my generals till I know what I want to do, because I have no idea right now.
Next, we'll take a look around the ranch.